Hello everyone, welcome to Homeschool Autism Life. My name is Jamie. This week's video, I want to talk about 8 benefits to homeschooling your special needs child. Now, there's a very big disclaimer at the beginning of this. If you are in an area or have a school or a team that is working well for your child, you are thrilled with them, your child is thrilled, there's no signs of anxiety or frustration or any of those things, this video may not be for you. I will leave a link down to our autism story or our homeschool story, but that was not the case for us. And I went into homeschooling kicking and screaming. It wasn't something that I had dreamed of. I didn't know the benefits. I didn't have a plan of action. I felt woefully unprepared. And I joke about it, but I say God pushed me off the cliff of homeschooling, and I'm very thankful that he did, because I do see benefits that I couldn't have seen before. There was no understanding, no knowledge, no nothing, and I'm thankful to say that God did catch me as I was free falling. And I'm so thankful that I can share these benefits with you if you're struggling, if you're trying to figure out how to make a school work, how you cannot be afraid to take that step. I couldn't have done it any other way. Like, God knew he had to push me off of that cliff, but I'm hoping that my experience will help you feel like you are capable of doing this thing that seems so big and so hard. So, I also believe that homeschooling is a calling, and so if you have not felt that push, the Lord hasn't called you to that, I am not one to circumvent that and say, yeah, you should. I feel like he directly told me by pushing me, but he did articulate that to me very, very clearly. And so, again, I have friends who aren't homeschoolers, and there is no judgment. God knows your situation way better than I. But if you're in that place where you're like, I think I want to, I think that that's what God is telling me to do, but I don't know, it seems big and scary and this is why I'm making this video. So welcome. So then one reason, I've got 8 reasons here, but the first reason is that there is such peace to this, and that feels directly contradictory to what I just said about it being big and scary and whatever. But in my experience, the energy output that I was putting to make the school and Darrion work together, oh my goodness, like I was banging my head against that brick wall over and over and over again, and I couldn't understand it. I couldn't wrap my head around why, no matter what I did, it wasn't working, and I couldn't understand it. And to be perfectly honest, I don't think that there was an answer to it. So once God pushed me off of that cliff, and I started, and it still felt big and huge and whatever, but I felt a certain amount of peace, because all that energy I was expending on making an unworkable situation work, I got to spend all of that energy on just my son and helping him heal from the situation at the school, but also just like it was just him and I, instead of all of these other individuals who had different ideas, differing education points of view, not understanding my son in any way, shape, or form, and not believing me when I said certain things like, he is intelligent and he is capable of this. Look at what he's doing at home. And they're like, oh, you probably did that for him. It was just untenable. It was untenable, and the amount of pain and frustration and angst and effort, and there's so many things. So if this is you, I hope that if you choose to make this jump or leap into the unknown, that you hear a certain amount of peace automatically comes. I was not confident in what I was doing. I was totally taking my knowledge of the school system, because I graduated from the school. I took that knowledge and tried to make it fit with my son. Of course, it didn't work, but there was an immediate peace. And that is worth 1,000 words when you are like slogging it over and over and over again. So number 2 is the benefits to your child's well-being. Again, if your child is an extrovert and he loves being surrounded and integrated and all of those things, yay. I am so thrilled for you. I am so happy that you have a situation that is working for you. Hurrah. Completely and totally. I'm not saying that in a sarcastic way. I mean that from the bottom of my heart. I listened to others who said that I needed, for my son's benefit, he needed to be integrated into society. And I think my logic centers were like, well, he needs that too, for the fact that, one day he won't be in our house. That was, before he was officially diagnosed. That was before we had, worked our heads around the grief of not having a typical child, like all of the things. I was like, of course, they need this. They need this it's a very important part of living life, right? So the issue that has come up, and the thing that I've learned as time has gone on, is it's not just, even if my son wasn't autistic, he is incredibly introverted, like his father and like his sister. I've got one girl who is very much like me, bouncy, chatty, smiley, that sort of thing, and then I have 2 very introverted children. So that integration, that being surrounded by noise and people, is going to be something that's very difficult for him at the best of times. And then you add in the autism and the inability to get the thoughts that are here out of your mouth in time for society to find normal, etc., etc., etc. It became untenable for him. I keep hoping I'm using that word correctly. My brain keeps pulling off the Princess Bride. I don't think that word is what you think it means. That keeps playing in my brain. But it wasn't workable for him. He could not do it. And I recognized that even when it came to starting grade 1 and grade 2, because I never put him in full time. I recognized, I'm like, it's overwhelming for him. And I didn't have the words to articulate what was happening, but I knew it in the center of my being that he could not go to school full time. There was no way that was going to happen, because I saw the strain on him already before he was officially diagnosed. So, again, looking back, hindsight is 2020. I'm like, I should have, not pushed him in that. I should have recognized the signs. I should have, could have, would have, whatever. And if you've watched any of my more recent videos, the what if questions are completely useless and do not help me in any way, shape, or form. So, I did the best with the information that I had at my disposal, and I refuse to beat myself up for it. And I am actually proud of myself in some ways, because that lack of knowledge, even with that lack of knowledge, I was still able to go, not sure this is working. And then when it climaxed, when he was in grade 2, I pulled him out as soon as I saw him getting anxiety. I'm like, the last thing that this child needs is an anxiety disorder on top of his autism. So again, hindsight is 2020. It would be lovely to be able to go back and go, okay, I'm just gonna homeschool him. But I didn't have these 8 things. I didn't know these 8 things, and now I do. So I would like to impart that on you. So my Darrion has drastically, the anxiety is gone. There is no anxiety, that it was very evident when he was in grade 2. It is gone because my child's well-being is able to happen here as opposed to somewhere else where I have no control over anything really. So number 3 is the ability to adjust easily your curriculum, your space, your anything. You're not tied to an IEP or an IEP. The school system sets that at the very beginning of the year. There might be one in the middle as well. I can't really recall, but they have, these are the goals. And this is how we're going to achieve these goals. And there's not a lot of play, not a lot of ability to go, okay, wait a minute, this isn't working. This is, so maybe we adjust things to fit this. Like there's none of that. Zero, zilch, nada. So at home, at homeschooling, you almost immediately, and I say this, oh no, I say this with a tongue in the cheek a little bit, but you can immediately see that there's something that's not right. He's pushing back on this, and I don't understand why, because for the last month it's been working, or for the last 2 times we did it, it's working. And I say the tongue-in-cheek thing because sometimes it takes me a while to go, okay, what do I do instead? Like, how do I change it? How do I adapt it? There's a lot of that takes me time to adjust and figure out the next course of action to teach him that thing that I need, like math. Math has drastically changed from what I was doing before. And it's okay. It's okay. So number 4, you can stretch your child without breaking your child's trust. So what I mean by that is, in the school system, they're not taking into account what your child's feeling in that moment, whether they have a red light or a green light. Red light meaning I am overwhelmed sensory wise and I cannot take on any information, like don't even try. Or a green light where they're like, I'm completely engaged. There's schedules, there's all sorts of things. So there's times when I can look at him and go, today is going to be an easy day. Today we're going to have him do a puzzle and we're going to have him do reading, and that's it. He is struggling today and I'm not going to push it. There's no point. We can adjust. The other thing too is we can go, okay, he needs to interact with people, or he needs to go shopping and do something like that. He needs to be able to do these things. And I need to be pushing him out of his comfort zone. I can also go, today's not the day. So there's a bunch of things that it's the ultimate flexibility. You can read your child's cues and go, where the school system goes, this is a schedule. At 11 o'clock, we're going to go do gym. You don't look like you're going to want to do that, but we're going to do it anyway. And it's not that they're being mean and nasty. They have a group of 20, 30, 40 children that they need to keep on a schedule. They need to keep them busy and active and whatever. But I know from my experience with my child, if he is overwhelmed and I push him to do something that he doesn't want, trust is broken, and I have to take a long time to rebuild that. I'll give you an example. We went to the mountains 3 years ago, and I thought, okay, I'll have his blanket, I'll have his stuffy, I'll have all of the things, but we ended up staying in 3 different places. My husband had a gift certificate to a castle in the mountains, and we wanted to use that up. We stayed with friends, and then we stayed at another condo-y type place that we thought, ooh, maybe it's something that we want to spend more time because it seems like an interesting place. It's a house to ourselves, etc., and so on and so forth. He cried almost every night. And, it broke our hearts, and we didn't truly understand what a stressor that is. Now, fast forward 3 years later, I say mountains, and my son's like 1 sleep. No more Auntie Jenna is our friend. No more castle. No more condo. He still, to this day, is adamant we are not going to the mountains. This is the first year that I've talked him into doing one night. So this is one of those things where I'm like, I recognized I made an oopsie, not because I was being mean and nasty. I thought, okay, he loves hiking. This is going to be fun. But for him, it absolutely wasn't. And we traumatized him. Now, you might look at that and go, well, maybe you need to do it more so he becomes desensitized to it. But after 3 years of not going anywhere overnight, other than to his uncle's at Christmas for one night, there's still this really rigid, I can't do that, it hurts me, don't do it, Mom, right? So this is the great thing about homeschooling, is that in the homeschool world, you can push and stretch them, but you recognize where the breaking points are a lot easier than the school system, who doesn't know your child, doesn't recognize the signs, and unfortunately that can cause long-term issues. So number 5 is tailor your child's education to their interests. This is a big one for me, is that I know for a fact that there are certain things that my son loves. He loves candy. He loves, Pixar movies. He loves certain things. And if I frame a math lesson around using a calculator and it has Pixar characters on it and it says, figure out this for Dory and the clownfish dad. You can tell how much I watch these things. But if I do that, he is more willing to do that than if I did it just, here's a sheet of paper that every other child in the room is doing. So another huge thing that you can do that the school system can't. Or most homeschool or school systems don't. The overall environment and tone. This one is also important because I can tailor make the things that I recognize are calming to my son. I can make sure that he has as much alone time as he needs. I can work with my other 2 girls, and he knows what the schedule is. He knows that once I finish, or when we do read aloud, he gets his leapfrog, and I do read aloud with the girls. Once that's done, he does his calendar and his clock. He knows what's coming next, and that familial schedule where he goes, this is familiar to me, I know what's happening next, means that the tone is calm and relaxed. And even if he's like, no, I'm having a bad day and I don't want to do it, he knows it's going to end really quick, so I can push a little bit if I see that there's room to do that. There's just so many benefits to being able to control the room. And again, you can't do that in a group of 30 children where everyone's yelling and saying different things. The schedule might be the same, but it's vastly different, right? All right, 7. If they have siblings, if your child has a sibling, then there are benefits there as well. So the social aspect for our kids with autism is a difficult one. The great thing about having siblings is that they can socially interact with their siblings, if you're homeschooling them as well, that they're safe people, right? They're safe individuals that your child recognize as being low, what's the word? They aren't going to look at your child as being weird or funny because they grew up with your child. And so this is normal to our typically developing children because that's their sibling. It hasn't changed, or it's changed a little bit, but so gradually that our kids don't recognize it, right? So that's a bonus just for our children with autism, because I've seen Sienna is able to push him in ways that I can't push him. But because she's a safe person and she does the slapstick comedy, which he loves, it's a lot easier for her to do that. So there's different aspects that I can't provide that my girls can provide for him. The other half of this, the benefit to our typically developing children, and this is something that the Sunrise program talks about. I will try and leave a link to her video where she talks about this, but there's a lot of guilt in an autism family that have typically developing children alongside their special needs child, that we spend so much time and energy on our special needs children that our other children get the leftovers. They're not getting the amount of focus and attention that we would like to give on an equal basis, right? And she makes this comment about stop feeling guilty about that. Just stop it. And the reason why she cites for that is she goes, our children with special needs teach our typically developing children empathy and selflessness that they can't learn any other way. We all want our kids to have the ability to be empathetic. We love the idea, right? But how do you actually do that? And in a family with typical and special needs children in combination, they get that lesson without us even having to try. And I love that. I love that. And I see it in how they respond to people who might be different on the street. Number 8 is God's grace in action as you trust and rely on him. This job of homeschooling my son is not simple. It's not straightforward. There's no book that can be written because special needs is such a vast area, and no two children with autism are alike, just like no two children with any disability are alike. And so I truly have to rely on God because God knows how his brain works. I guess. And sometimes I get it right, and that's awesome. But I guess at it. I don't know. I don't have the ticker tape for his forehead that says this is what his thoughts are doing so that I can address them as they come up. I don't have that ability. And so I have learned over many years of doing this that my reliance on God is complete. Lord, what do I do in this situation? How do I adjust this thing that he's struggling with and I'm not? How do I do that? How? And I have found, whether it's curriculum picks, if I pray that prayer and go, Lord, I need your wisdom and guidance on this. Show me. Give me eyes to see, direct my fingers on the computer, my mouse clicks, direct me. He has not let me down yet. And so not only is that a huge trust building exercise between my God and myself, but also my trusting him for the future for my son is huge. Lord, I don't know what he's going to need for the future. Like I don't have a crystal ball, but I know the one who does know. And so being able to go, Lord, I trust you that you're going to show me what I need to teach him so that his future is secure. I trust you with him. And why do I trust him? Is because he loves my son more than I do, which seems impossible and yet is true. He died for my son. He will find a way to reach my son so that he has trust in the Lord and he will meet me in heaven one day. Like all of the things that we are concerned and worried about as believers, as homeschool parents, all of those things in combination, I can rely on God. I can trust him with the future, and that is a huge benefit, not only because it helps our kids, but it builds faith and endurance and strength and power in us because we go, I'm not doing this alone. I'm not doing it alone. Thank you, Lord, that I'm not doing it alone because I would fail otherwise. So I hope this has been an encouragement. I hope that if you are in that position of going, it's not working. It's not working, but I don't want to take this on because I think I'm going to fail. See, average student, this is who graduated from high school, and yet I get reviews from my facilitator, again, not because of me, but because of the one who I rely on and trust for my kids' futures. So this is possible. It is doable, even if you are like, nope, 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 because in our weakness, he is strong and he gives us the strength to achieve the goals that he has for us. Stick around. I do a video once a week, and we're going to be doing a lot more homeschool. I have finally am wrapping up this year and putting stuff away, and I'm going to be starting to collect all the things I need for next year. So stick around. If you haven't, like the video, subscribe, do all the things that everyone tells you to do. I'm so bad at reminding people of doing that, but I really want to encourage this ability that seems so big and so crazy, that you can do it too for your kids. So thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video. If you're here all the way to the end, you are a rock star. Thank you for being my friend and spending time with me. Again, if you have any questions or concerns, feel free to leave them down in the description, not in the description box, that's me, comment section. And I always answer everyone. So thank you so much for taking the time. We'll see you next time. Bye.